everybody please pull up PrepTest 68 game 1 on like your own screen. That way we can go through it.
What section is that, please?
Do you have Law Hub or the book?
I have Law Hub.
It should be section 1.
Okay, thank you.
It's the game about a realtor will show a prospective buyer 7 houses. All right, does somebody want to read the game for us?
I'll read it.
Good.
A realtor will show a prospective buyer 7 houses, JKLMNONP, during a single day. The first and second houses to be shown will be shown in the morning. The third, fourth, and fifth houses to be shown will be shown in the afternoon. The sixth and seventh houses to be shown will be shown in the evening. The houses will be shown according to the rules. J must be shown in the evening. K cannot be shown in the morning. L must be shown at some time after K is shown, at some time before M is shown.
Yeah. All right, thank you so much. So as we can see, we can kind of see this is a multi-level ordering game. So what you have is you have your 7 spots, but you also have the whole morning, afternoon, evening thing. So it's kind of something interesting to also make sure you include in your diagram. So everybody go ahead and start your own diagram by yourself. And then from here, then after a couple minutes, everybody tries the diagram. If anyone has any questions, they can reach out on here. I'll pull up my diagram and we'll kind of go through ways to approach this and kind of how to best to outline this game to make it easier to go through. So, and also if at any point today, feel free to shout out either through the chat or out loud to get my attention to ask any questions about anything we do today. So go ahead, take a couple minutes, then we'll go, I'll share my screen and go through my diagram. Okay, so let's kind of go through kind of the way I diagrammed it. We can talk about different strategies for diagramming if people have questions. So what I like to do first is what I did up here. So we know that this is a game where in the game itself, it tells us that they're showing 7 houses during a single day. And we know the houses will be shown according to the following rules, and they'll be shown in a specific order. So what I like to do here is I like to put the game pieces up here, aka the things that up here in the JKLMNOP, up here in the top left corner. I like to put those as like the game pieces as to what we're going to insert into the diagram itself, to kind of remind myself as I'm going through what different things I have to fit into my diagram. So next, the next thing I did was I included a column system. So there's 2 techniques here. There's the, I call it the column system, and there's the one where people use like a dash ordering system. I prefer the column system because I think it keeps everything more organized and you can move down it much more effectively. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here to kind of outline there are 7 different houses shown. So we can insert these game pieces up here into here. The most interesting aspect of this game, kind of where they're trying to show you something new, is the morning, afternoon, and evening component. So here I just kind of drew these different like brackets above each of the different ordering pieces to include the morning, afternoon, and evening to kind of remind myself these are the different distinctions. And then from there, I went into diagramming my rules. So any questions on the initial setup, but not the rules yet. So we'll go over the rules in a minute. Okay, seeing no questions, let's go on to rule 1. So rule 1 says J must be shown in the evening. So I could in here theoretically put J equals E. However, for myself, it makes more sense to put J equals to 6 or 7 because that's where we're going to be inserted here. So that's really what J equals evening would be. But I think this is a better way to do it because it reminds myself, okay, it's not necessarily some variable here, then I have to look down. I put 6 or 7 instead. Any questions on that one? Rule 1. Okay. If not, let's move to rule 2. So rule 2 says K cannot equal morning. So kind of like the last one, I said K cannot equal 1 or 2. This is a symbol I use for cannot equal, just the equal sign with a line through it. So we know K cannot be in that first, second spot. And then here, rule 3 says L must be shown at sometime after K, but before M. So we know L is going to be in between these two at some point, not necessarily next to each other, but at some point we'll have a K, L, and then an M. So, yes.
Should we not put J at 1 and like put J with crossed out from 1 to 4 as well?
You can put J crossed out 1 through 5, but if you want to, I just kind of this game didn't really have many rules, and I didn't want to confuse everybody with stuff up here. So you totally can like. So you put like J not here. Like you can do that if you want. I just didn't. I just kind of knew J was going to be here and here. So whatever is easiest for you, I think works.
Okay.
But yeah, you do that. And then you put like sometimes I like to put J here. Like I'll put like J has to be here kind of thing. Or I'll
Mhm.
put even in my first initial setup, I'll say J or J. But because there's 2 spaces for this, I'll normally just put it up there. And then for L, so let's move on to this. Does that kind of answer your question, Cher?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And then kind of to go over the next step, well, I have the L's up here. So the L's are up here because I know L can't come. So we know K can't be 1 or 2, right? So
Yeah,
the earliest K could be is 3. So that means L can't be 3. Right? Because K can't come before 3. So L has to come after 3 because the earliest K could be is 3. So now we know L could be 4, 5, or 6 without doing any like game or any questions. And we also know L can't be 7th because L has to have an M after it. So we know L can't be 7th as well. So we can, instead of drawing the lines through all of them, I just did the L to make it clearer. But the L can only be in 4, 5, or 6. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mhm.
Any questions on this initial setup for this multi-level ordering game?
Yeah, the third one makes it so much easier for me because I did it that way, right? And then I put, let me go back to the rules. I erased it. I put in a box, L, K, and then in the other box, K, M, but what you're doing makes it easier.
Yeah, it makes it to where like the chain is really nice in this format because it kind of shows you, okay, I know I have to have KLM. So also something interesting here. I know that L and M. So I know K also can't come 6th or 7th, right?
Right,
Which is also something important to note because it kind of shows you that K can't come in the evenings.
right.
So K can only come at latest 5th. And then this is without doing any like the deductions. So if like for example, if K came 5th, we actually find out that K can't come 5th because that L, M, and J had to follow it, but we'll get to that later on. So just looking at these chains and being able to develop these chains will help you in most ordering games and kind of understanding how they work. Because this one's different because there's a dash in between, so it's not necessarily that there's one space in between. It's just the fact that K comes before L, comes before M. If I want to signify one dash, I'd do more of an underscore. But I think there's a space in between. Or if there's no space, I do a KL block. So any other questions on this initial setup? Okay. If not, we'll move on to question 1. So question 1 in this game is, which one of the following could be the order from 1st through 7th in which the realtor shows the houses? So this is a very typical first question in kind of logic games nowadays. So what this is going to ask you is kind of showing you a way to kind of like asking you to determine a way these rules work and kind of give you an example of how it works. These are called grab rule game types, and they're very helpful to set up your game and kind of what I like to use when I'm setting up in this initial game. I look at the first question most of the time if it's a grabbable question and make sure my format kind of makes sense. Like in this case, this is an easier setup because it was just 1 through 7, but this confirms my setup if that makes sense to everybody. Okay, everybody take a minute or two and go through this question. What you want to do for these 10 questions is move from the rules to the questions, or move the rules, to the questions instead of going through each question and going to the rules, if that makes sense. I'll demonstrate what I mean, but go ahead and take a minute to go through this one by yourself, and then we'll go through it together. All right, let's go through this one. Does anybody want to share what they got and kind of how they got there, if they're feeling confident in their answer?
Actually, I'd like to, if that's possible.
Yeah.
So I went through it using the first rule. So I knew that J either had to be 6 or in 7th, right? So I immediately knew that E was out.
Exactly.
Just off of the first rule. And then I went to the second rule and saw that K either was first or second. And I immediately knew that wait, I'm sorry.
No,
It
you're
could
good.
either be 1 or 2 is what K was. K could be 1 or 2.
Okay, couldn't be 1 or 2 is what you should think.
Yes, I'm sorry, it couldn't be 1 or 2. So I knew that A was out. I'm sorry, I read it wrong. So
No,
I knew that A was out
Mhm.
because K was first. And then I went to the third rule, KLM, and I just read it out. So A's out, B's out, C still in because KLM, and D is out because the KLM rule, the third rule, does not apply. But so at that time I was stuck between oh, the answer is E. Is the answer E?
The answer is C.
Oh,
I think you meant C because you said you already eliminated A, so I think you meant C.
okay. Yes. All right. I'm sorry. So yes, the answer
No,
is C.
you're good. No, you got there. I think, so what I like to do for these ones is kind of like what you did. It's very good to go through the rules first, then go through the answer choices. Just make sure you're marking off kind of which ones you eliminate each time, then you don't go back and look at them. So like, for example, rule 1, you eliminated E. So I put that here. I put it to the side of my game sometimes, even saying, okay, rule 1 eliminated E, rule 2 eliminated A, and then rule 3 eliminated B and D in this case. So the correct answer would be C. So kind of going through those, using the rules to bring them to the questions or to the answer choices instead of going backwards is a lot more efficient. Like instead of going through A and trying to see how it's messed up, instead going through all of them saying J has to be 6 or 7 and just combing through and making sure J is either last or second to last in here is a lot faster that way than the latter way. So kind of going through that is the best strategy for grab rule. And then for here, what I like to do is I like to include the grab rule like example. Like this is so the one above this line is the OPK LMJ. I like to put that in my diagram because I know this is a game type that works, and this could be used to answer questions further on. And then kind of to go through what I like to do for logic games is the reason I like to use the columns is because I use all of my, normally outside of tutoring, I put all of my answer choices or all of my questions onto this one diagram and just label it like this is 1. And I'll start question 2's diagrams here and keep moving on. So I don't have to redraw this diagram every time. I just have like one giant game board and it really helps me. And I just use one game board per sheet. Any questions on question 1? And everybody can hear me and understand me well. Sorry, I'm in a new place.
Yes.
Okay, if there are no questions on question 1, Let's go to question 2. So question 2 says, which one of the following is a pair of houses that cannot be shown consecutively in either order? So go ahead and take a minute, go through this one. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Let's go through this one then. So I'm going to move my screen over. Does somebody want to share their answer and kind of how they got there?
I went with A as the answer. I think I did more of a guessing game, basically because J has to be shown early in the in the evening and K in the morning. So I picked that because evening and morning are like one time period apart.
Well, actually, K can't be in the morning. I think it's the rule. So we know K has to be in the afternoon, actually. So that's not necessarily it's the right. A is the correct answer, but we know K can't be in the morning. So it actually forces K and J to be a little closer together. But let's kind of go through how else you can get there besides just looking at morning and evening, if that makes sense.
The correct
Yeah.
answer is A.
Yeah, correct answer is A.
Okay, thank you.
So let's kind of go through how we get there. So when I come to these kind of questions, normally I would look back at my previous one and see if there are any next to each other. So that's why we used that. So like for the last question, we wrote this one down over here, and we see that J and M are together over here. They're consecutively, right? So I was able to cross out B instantly because I know they're consecutive here. So that was an easy way to get rid of one answer choice. Next, I'll just go through A, B, C, D, and E. A, C.
I'm sorry, can you repeat what you just said?
So an easy way. So once you have this type of game, you can see that you're showing that you're looking at what cannot be shown consecutively. And so because in the last game we wrote down that this OPKLNMJ like chain works, right? Because that's the answer choice we got for number 1. We see that M and J are shown consecutively in number 1, right? So we can eliminate B in number 2. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, I did the wrong question, so.
Oh, so let's go through this. So after eliminating B, we go back to A and say, okay, there are 2 ways that J can be fit in there. So let's try to figure out where we can put J to have K be next to it. So let's put, so we know K can't be last, right? We said that because it has to be K and then an L and then an M following it, right? So we know already K can't be in this last spot, right? So we know K can't be here. So the only way it would work would be if K is here. We also know K can't be here because we'd have to have J, or sorry, we know K can't be in the last spot. So we could have KJ 6 and 7, right? But we know K also can't be 6 because you have to have KLM, right? So let's put K in that 5th spot and J in the 6th spot. Well, if you have this, then there's nowhere to place L and M. So we know that no matter what, J and K cannot be next to each other in any scenario because J has to be 6 or 7. Does that make sense? So we know the correct answer is A because they can't be shown next to each other. Anyone have any questions on number 2? Am I going too fast, too slow? How's the pace here?
Could you repeat that quickly? Just like, I guess the second part.
To the second part? Okay. Like kind of why K can't be next to J?
Yes, because initially when I was like working on the problem, like I initially actually did choose A and then I chose B instead. And I guess I just want to figure out my reasoning as to
Of course.
why I did
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah. So first off, the first thing I used, because when we did the setup, we said K can't be 6th or 7th, right? Do you remember when we did that? Like, does that make sense to you? Why K can't be 6 or 7?
Yes.
So if K can't be 6 or 7, and we know J has to be 6 or 7, we know the only way J could be next to K would be if we have if K in 5 and J in 6, right? If we know if J's in 7, we know K can't be 6. And we know if J is 6, K can't be 7. Is that where I lost you?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Because I did actually get that rule when I wrote out the KLM rule. I actually understood that. I guess I'm just trying to figure out like how to apply it when I'm answering the question. That part. I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
think yeah, totally understandable. I think bringing those deductions to the actual game is kind of the hardest thing in logic games and the thing they're kind of testing for. So makes sense. So K, so we know K can't be in the 6th or 7th spot, right? So the reason we know that is because there has to be an L and M following it. But K also can't be 5th now because we know J has to be 6 or 7. And if J is 6 or 7, we know that there's not enough space then for L and M to both follow K, like Rule 3 says. So there's no way that K and J could be shown consecutively.
I understand now. Thank you for going back there.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, anytime. So kind of you said you answered B. So that's why how writing down the first one is so nice, because we see that, oh, J and M are next to each other here. So we know that we can eliminate B, if that makes sense.
And I think I looked at it the opposite, like consecutive, meaning they could go hand in hand. So I just read it wrong too.
That makes sense. I think the conceptual understanding of the question is important because it means like it's asking you which one could not be shown consecutively versus which one can be. So to kind of answer question is, I just use like generally I use the same diagram over and over again and just kind of draw lines underneath each question. So like for like question 1, I put a 1 next to it. Then I put question 2 and put a 2 next to it and keep going down and just draw a dividing line to kind of make sure so I don't have to keep redrawing all these things again, if that makes sense. And you can use all of these this diagram all the way through to question 5, and then we'll have a new game and go from there. Oh, so the answer from number 1. Got it. Let me check. Sorry, let me see there. Let me look at the so let's see if we can use the number 1. So number 1, kind of we can it's which one I thought must be true. So sometimes it's hard to use like this one to kind of prove something. But you can. So like for example, A says K is shown in the evening. Well, here we see K is shown in the evening. K is shown in the afternoon. So we know that one's not correct. So we can eliminate A, if that makes sense. That's how we can use our previous diagrams to help us. This one. Let's go ahead, everybody take another minute and we'll go through this one. Okay, does somebody want to share their answer and kind of how they got there?
I don't know if it's right, but I can.
What'd you get for your answer first? Then we'll kind of see.
E.
So the correct answer is actually B. So I
Okay.
can go through it if you want me to.
Please.
Did anybody else get B and kind of want to explain their thought process? So I'm not talking the whole time.
I could go.
Go ahead, Justin.
Sorry if you guys hear background. I'm in a car. So I chose B, and the reason I chose B is because really quickly I was seeing how well I also like your method where you just go in from whatever diagram you already had because it helps me visualize better. So I looking at the rules, you can have J in 6 or 7, and then you can you're supposed to have J in 6 or 7, and you can have K in 1 or 2. So in my mind, I was seeing how the first choice said K is shown in the evening, and then if K was shown in the evening, then there will be no room for L and M, so that automatically is no. Then L is shown in the evening, the same thing. If L was shown in the evening, then there will be a problem locating the rest of them. And also L, it says something that must be true. L could also be shown in the afternoon, so that's why C is wrong. I just went down the line on the answers. And then M, for D, it says M is shown in the morning. That is incorrect because M cannot be shown in the morning, because then there will be no room for K or L, which should go together with that. And then the last one said M is shown in the afternoon, and just the same problem. If M was shown in the afternoon, then K will be forced to be in 1 or 2, and K cannot be in 1 and 2, so that's why it shows B.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'd say the only thing is that last one. Just because M could be shown in 5, so K could be shown in 3. But besides that, I'd say it was perfect. The main reason E isn't correct is because M could also come in the evening, so it's not necessarily true that M has to come in the afternoon. But yeah, perfect reasoning for everything else, and that's a great way to look at it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Jasmine.
So let's kind of go over, or one more time, kind of go through what Jasmine said to make sure everybody kind of understands what we're doing in number 3. So we know K, so we're trying to find something that must be true. So because in this previous game from number 1, we see here K is in the afternoon. So K being shown in the evening, we know doesn't have to be true. So we can eliminate A. Looking at C, L shown in the evening, we know that isn't possible because we put L in 6. We know L has to have M following it. And if we put L in 6, then J and M have to follow. So we know that C is incorrect too, because L cannot be in the evening at all. Next, we know M can't be shown in the morning because it has to follow K and L, and also K can't be 1 or 2. So no matter what, M can't be shown in the morning. So we can eliminate D and E. M being in the afternoon, M could be in the afternoon. We could have a K, L, M here. But we also know from game 1, here we see M in the evening. So we know that it's not must be true. L has to be, or M has to be in the evening, have to be in the afternoon. So the correct answer would be B as in boy for this one. And we see that because we know L can't be in spot 1 or 2. So we know L can't be in the morning. We know L can't be in the evening because it can't be in spot 6 or 7. So then L has to be in the afternoon no matter what we do. Does that kind of explanation go through and flesh everything out for everybody?
Where would you put that on the game board for number 3?
Like how I diagram that?
Yeah, because I like what you're doing with each game. You number it, it just keeps everything in order.
Yeah, so I just put like something like this. Just because I didn't really draw a diagram for this one, because it's a must be true question, so it's a little hard. So
Uh-huh.
I kind of put like this, and I almost like cross through this real quick. So I know that L can't be in that 6th spot. So I prove that L has to be in the afternoon. Does that make sense?
No.
Sorry, this one that's just hard to diagram because like you can diagram each one and kind of cross through them, but to save time, I would just kind of go through this one. I just put 3, or you can just skip to 4, honestly, if you don't want to. But this one kind of this is how I prove that L couldn't be in the evening because J and M would have to follow it, and that doesn't work. You also cross.
So could I put just the, oh, what I saw what you did, the afternoon section, LLL. Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
that's kind of how I did diagram it. And we proved that
Yeah.
L can't be 6, so I'd actually eliminate this one.
Mhm.
And we know L can't be 3, so L really can only be in 4 or 5, which is actually very helpful for the next couple of questions.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
So 4 and 5. Okay, thanks.
Yep. So you don't necessarily have to put it there, but I like to. Like it's hard to always do that. If that makes sense. 'Cause sometimes some of the questions come very easily after you've looked at the game. So
Thanks.
let's
Thank
go
you.
through number 4. No problem. So number 4 says which one of the following could be true. So this is a little different because the one we just handled was a must be true. So must be true means in every case of that game, this has to happen. Could be true. We're just trying to see one scenario that could happen with this new with these new, I guess, instructions or new possibilities. So everyone go ahead and take a minute or two, and then we'll go through this one. So did somebody else get C and kind of want to explain their answer? And if not, I can too.
I can. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I was having issues with my audio earlier.
No worries.
So basically, I just tried it out in my scenarios, like, well, I eliminated K can't be after J because of course then there wouldn't be room for L and M.
Mhm.
And then L can't be shown after J for pretty much the same reason. There's not enough room. And then both N and O are shown at some time after M. That just doesn't work because M can only fit in 5, 6, and 7. And then you wouldn't have room for J. Oh yeah, you would have to have M, N, P, and J or something.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's
I was sorry, I'm trying to look at what I wrote
no,
to remember.
Go ahead, keep going.
And then, oh, that was like the both N and P are shown at some time after K. That doesn't work because then J gets left out.
Mhm.
So basically it brought me down to C, and then so I tried it out and I was like, can that work? And yes, it could work without breaking any rules as far as I could tell. So that's how I got to C.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I kind of like that's how I got there too. So K is shown at sometime after J is shown. Like so we said, they can't be true because J has to be 6 or 7. We know K can't come 6 or 7. We already proved that earlier. L is shown sometime after J is shown. So we know then J would have to be 6, L would have to be 7, which doesn't work. So we kind of knew those two. So instead of for the next one, I looked at D and E kind of like you did, and I said, okay, both N and L are shown sometime after M is shown. I was like, well, if N and L were after M, the earliest M could be would be 5. So then we wouldn't have enough space for J, N, and O. So we can eliminate D. And then for E, both N and P are shown sometime after K. So if we have K being third even, then we know we have to have LM, J follow it, and then wouldn't have enough things before K, if that makes sense. So then we go to C, kind of go back to that and prove that it works. So P is shown at sometime after J is shown. So the only way this is possible would be if we have a JP. And so I would put J in 6 and P in 7, and then kind of work backwards. So I know if J and P are in spot 6 and 7, I know M has to be in spot 5. I know L has to be in 4, K has to be in 3, and then N or O are kind of reversible here. So the correct answer is C. Any questions on this one?
Yes, I just have to do it over.
Where do you think you struggled here?
I'm not even sure. I'm so drained tonight.
No
I'm
worries.
just-
Sometimes it's
yeah.
also it's hard to find everything.
Can I ask you
Yeah, I
that?
think what good. Yeah.
Is it wrong to assume, because I picked C because I said P is the floater, so is it wrong to like, would I have gotten that wrong in any other question? You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's a floater, I said this got to be C.
Sometimes some games it would be hard to like you could get that wrong. Yes, it is definitely a possibility because like some games it just wouldn't work that way if that makes sense. So if you put J, like let's say you put like sometimes that floater has to be before something based on the outline of that game. So I would still in that case if you have enough time, like it's a good way to look at it if you're running out of time on this game. But if not, I would really quickly like, okay, I see it's probably right. I would prove it real quick, then move on instead of looking at the other answer choices, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
No problem.
I just wanted to ask, I struggled with this question because when I was doing it, especially with D and E, I figured if I put like say take D for example, if I put N and number 3 and K number 4, L, M, and J still fit. So I wasn't exactly able to rule out both E and D.
So do you want me to kind of rule out why it's not possible?
Yes.
Of course. So when we're looking at D, we see they want N and O to show up both to show up after M. So we know the earliest M could be would be here, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then N and O would have to come in these last two spots. But there's no room for J then.
Okay.
So does that make sense for D? Kind of why D couldn't work?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's go through E. So if we have E, so we know both N and P are shown at sometime after K is shown. So the way I look at this one is I know K could be 3 or 4. So if I know K is in 3 or 4, I would say, okay, I probably want to see where K is at. K is in that 3 spot, right?
Mhm.
So if I put K in that 3 spot, because that's most likely to give us enough space later on. I know I have to have L and M following it, right? I know J has to come in one of these next spots, so it doesn't really matter because N and P can kind of go wherever. But there's no space for both N and P on this side. Does that make sense? Because we
Yes.
know L, M, and J have to follow K,
Mhm.
but N and P, there has to be something that comes before them. So does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, cool. So you kind of see why D and E or why C is the correct answer and D and E don't work.
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. All right. Everybody, any more questions about number 4? And Rachel, I'll get to your diagrams while people are working on number 4, if that works. But so all right. Everybody go ahead and work on number 5. Or everybody work on number 5. 5 says if P is shown in the afternoon, which one of the following must be true? Go ahead and take a minute or two to do this, then we'll do that. So Rachel, when it comes to a diagram, if you want, everybody else keep working number 5, but I think it's good. I do think it's just a little time consuming, if that makes sense. I think also something you could do, I would put the rules as rule 1, rule 2, and rule 3. That way it's easier to kind of refer to them. So instead of doing like the J equals 6 or 7, K equals 1, K can equal 1 or 2, and KLM up there, I would put it to the side of the things. That makes it kind of easier. Instead of writing morning, afternoon, evening, I'll just write MAE to make it easier. That's fine.
Yeah.
I think crossing out the K's, that's good. That's good. That's a good idea. Yeah, I think it works. And I think your diagram could save you time. I think when it comes down to diagramming, it's how people kind of feel. And I think as you go through it, I think timing yourself. I think when you start getting, like, if this works for you getting it right, it works right now. Make sure
Right.
on test that you actually have enough time to do it. So start timing yourself
Yeah.
that 8 minutes, 45 seconds. And if you're seeing you're short by like 20 seconds, maybe cut out some things. But if you're short by a minute, then it's maybe not your diagramming, but instead you're like understanding the question, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I'm super slow right now, so I'm happy if I get them right in like a reasonable amount of time compared to where I started, which is like a half an hour on every question at least. So
When do you plan on taking it?
I'm signed up for August. I mean,
Okay.
I can score well enough to get into the schools that I want to go to right now, but I'm trying to get scholarships. So we'll see what
Of course.
happens.
A biggest tip for applications is always apply to schools, like if you have a range of schools, and like try to apply to schools above that too, to hopefully use that for scholarship negotiation too.
Yeah, that's
'Cause
what
I
like,
applied like 20 different schools, and that's yeah, it's very nice.
did you
to have that.
actually get to negotiate them?
I actually applied ED though, so I'm good at it's my own thing, but I'm
Yeah.
going to Northwestern next year, so I'm
Nice.
so that's kind of so I applied ED, but I was going to if I didn't get in. early decision.
Right, yeah.
Right. So that kind of made my process easy, which is I do like if you have a dream school and you don't need to negotiate money or like Northwestern has that scholarship attached to ED. So if you get one of those, I do recommend doing that because it was very nice while my peers were negotiating and trying to figure out which school to go to. I was already it was very nice and easy.
That's what I would like, simple.
Exactly. So if anybody has any admission questions too, go ahead and feel free to ask. We can ask at the end. But how's everybody feeling on number 5 real quick? Let's go through this last one, call it a day. Does somebody want to kind of share their answer and kind of how they got there?
I went with A for number 5. J shown at 7. What I did here was well, I used the diagram, which I've been trying to do throughout this whole session. And I'll start with C. N can go first, but it's not compulsory or mandatory. O as well could go first, so I ruled that out. And M can be in the afternoon because K and L have to come before it, especially when there's P also in the afternoon. I ruled that out. O we show in the morning. It's not also compulsory. It can swap with N. And for K, it technically also can go third, but P can also go third. So I ruled that out.
Yeah, so just kind of not to cut you off there, but I think actually the correct answer is E, but it was close between E and A, and kind of I'll kind of go through it if you want me to.
Okay.
So kind of you're right in like what you did is the first thing I did is I said, okay, if I know P, they're forcing P to be in the afternoon, and I know at this point both K and L have to also be in the afternoon, I kind of know that this afternoon block has to be KPL, right? In that 3, 4, 5 section. It can be KP, or we know KP and L have to be the 3 there. We know K and P could switch, so but we know that more afternoon has to be KP and L in some format, with K being before L. So next, I looked at spot the morning and the evening. So I said, okay, in the evening, I know I have to have J. I know I have to have M because M has to come after K, P, and L. So I know in these last 2 spots, I have to have J or M, and it doesn't matter which spot they're in because they both follow L. So that's why A isn't correct, is because J could also be shown 6th and M could be shown 7th. And for those first 2 spots, the last 2 are the N and O, which are both kind of floaters. So we looking at E, O being shown in the morning. We know O has to be in spot 1 or 2, which is in the morning. So we know it can't be shown in the afternoon or evening. So that's why E must be true. I think you also confused that O had to be first, where like it's asking about the morning and not necessarily being in the first spot.
Yeah, I missed that part. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how you see how easy it is to kind of go with A instead of E. And that's why I feel like these ones I like to because they give us segments like, okay, afternoon, we know PSB in these 3, 4, 5 spot. And we know kind of then K and L have to be there too. So we prove that K and L have to be in the afternoon entire game. We can then look at J and M have to be after and N and O have to be before. So it kind of shows us where they can be flexible, in which case like the right answer. Any questions about this one?
Michael,
Yes.
just a question in general. What this type of question type, I'd like to study it more. What kind of videos do you suggest for this type?
So this is a multi-level ordering game. So I'd say it's more of like the complicated one. It's not the simple ordering game, like a relative ordering game. It's more they added this morning, afternoon, evening. So I think on
Right.
LSAT Unplugged, the more advanced ordering games would probably be a better case. I can't give you any like examples off the top of my head if that makes sense, but just looking for ones that
When
like
you were
ordering. What'd you say?
when you were studying for this type of game, where did you go? Where was your go-to to study for it?
I went to LSAT Unplugged and actually used their logic game study. Not a shamelessly plug, but I actually did use their stuff. That's why it's kind of how I got involved. But I went to their they have I believe in their website they have this they have this logic game schedule, but based on how they study, and I kind of went through that first and used that to study. Let me see if I can find that link real quick.
Thank you.
But yeah, so that's kind of what I did. Any other questions about what we did today?